Former Labour Cabinet Minister Angela Rayner has made a speech attacking her party's immigration policy, and the media are all screaming, "Leadership challenge," instead of analysing whether she actually has a point. They have dug up their proverbial dead cat and flung it on the table, and we need to ask, why are our news providers trying to distract us? You can gauge the attitude from the BBC's Politics Live with Vicky Young, Ian Watson and Kate Flanagan of The Sun.
But it will, of course, be seen as her maybe testing the water for a leadership challenge, won't it?
I mean, speaking to people across the Labour Party this morning, some suggest she clearly wants to trigger a leadership contest. Should there be a leadership contest, I think she's saying very clearly, I'm a candidate, don't you forget about me.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt, right? Angela Rayner, this kind of red queen across the water, definitely an out-and-out leadership bid really last night, I think.
What's striking is how little of the coverage actually engages with the substance of what Rayner is arguing, because on its own terms, it's a serious critique of government policy. Her charge is that changing settlement rules midstream, doubling the wait for indefinite leave to remain from 5 years to 10, and potentially far longer for refugees, amounts to moving the goalposts. That goes to a principle that has long underpinned UK immigration policy: predictability. People enter the system on the basis of clearly understood terms. If those terms are altered after they've committed years of their lives, work and finances, then the policy ceases to be a contract and becomes discretionary. Rayner's argument is that this undermines trust not only among migrants, but in the system itself. Her use of un-British is not making a vague cultural appeal. She's invoking a specific idea of fairness, that rules should not be arbitrarily rewritten after the fact. In that sense, she's reframing the immigration debate away from numbers and towards process and legitimacy. That puts her directly at odds with Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, whose justification is rooted in resource management, the idea that settlement is a privilege and that extending the qualifying period reduces pressure on public finances. But that argument quietly assumes something politically risky, that migrants who are already contributing to the economy are primarily a cost to be managed rather than participants in it. Rayner is also making a second, more strategic point about Labour itself. Her warning is that the party is seen as representing the establishment, and that's an implicit critique of Keir Starmer's governing approach. It suggests that policies like this aren't just technocratic adjustments. They are part of a broader political drift away from Labour's traditional base and values. This is where the debate becomes symbolic. For Rayner, it's not just about migration, it's about whether Labour governs through caution and managerialism, or through a clearer ideological framework that emphasises fairness and consistency. Her running out of timeline isn't about electoral cycles, it's about a perceived erosion of identity. Now compare that with how the BBC frames it. The BBC analysis immediately pivots to leadership speculation, drawing parallels with Gordon Brown's manoeuvring under Blair and treating the speech as a coded leadership pitch. That personalises what is actually a policy critique, turning a disagreement over immigration rules into a question of ambition and internal rivalry, and it shifts the reader's focus from "is this policy fair or workable" to "is she positioning for a coup?" That is a significant shift. If the debate is about leadership, then the content of the argument becomes secondary, almost incidental. It obscures a genuine policy divide inside government, whether it is acceptable to retroactively harden immigration rules for people already embedded in the system. And there's also a subtler effect. By framing Rayner's comments as factional or strategic, it allows defenders of the policy to avoid engaging with her central claim. They don't need to rebut the fairness argument if they can instead question her motives or political positioning. So, there is a strong case that the leadership angle is functioning as a distraction, not necessarily in a conspiratorial sense, but as a default media reflex. Conflict is clearer when it's about personalities rather than principles. But in this instance, that reflex matters. Strip away the speculation, and what remains is a fairly stark question that hasn't been properly interrogated in the coverage. Is it acceptable for a government to change the terms of settlement for people who have already entered the system in good faith? That's the argument Rayner is actually making. Everything else, including whether she fancies Keir Starmer's job, is at best noise.